What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Countdown to Endgame, where I'll be counting down the 21 movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe leading into Avengers Endgame coming out this April. Today I'm talking about one of my personal favorites, Captain America, the First Avenger. Now, if you haven't already noticed, I am quite a fan. I got a shirt, I got a wallet, I got a backpack, all Captain America. He's my favorite character out of the entire MCU. Close behind him is Doctor Strange, so if anyone ever asks me who my favorite characters are, it'd be those two. But with Captain America, I like his personality, I like what he stands for. He always does what's right, and with his movies, all three of them are honestly the trilogies out of all the superheroes we see in the standalone movies. His has the best one out of all three of them. With this one, I feel this is a movie that people tend to forget about because once Winter Soldier arrived a few years later, that was the definitive edition, not only for Captain America, but for the majority of the MCU. That changed the way we looked at Marvel Cinematic Universe and superhero movies. And then you had Civil War. People kind of forgot about the original Captain America, the first one, where he came from. And this is one that I feel that is really one of the better ones, specifically because he is the first Avenger. And this takes place in a time where none of the other movies took place in World War II. So the movie stars Chris Evans making his debut as Captain America. And I remember at the time when they first announced that he was to be playing him, I thought it hard to believe because a few years prior he had played Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. And so to see him play this kind of comedic little brother type of role in that movie and then transitioning it to this more responsible type of figure, it was a bit of a stretch, but I gave it a chance and I was proven wrong in my mind, and he turned out to be the best choice. And a little fun fact for Chris Evans playing the role of Captain America, he declined the offer to play him 3 times, and apparently Robert Downey Jr. was the one who convinced him to finally do it. Why he kept declining it, I'm not sure. I would probably think it's because he would not want to ruin the character, or he wouldn't want to be in multiple pictures, because some actors, that's why they decline certain roles. But I'm glad Robert Downey Jr., he convinced him somehow. The movie also stars Tommy Lee Jones, Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, Sebastian Stan as Bucky Barnes, and Hugo Weaving as the villain Red Skull. This movie, of course, is an origin story of Captain America, taking place in the early 40s during World War II, when we first meet Steve Rogers, wanting to join the war effort, but due to his health, gets declined multiple times, eventually meeting Dr. Abraham Eskrin that introduces him to Howard Stark and his super soldier program, and hence creating the first super soldier, Captain America. Unfortunately for Captain America, once he gains these new powers, they don't let him go to war. Instead, they want to use him for promoting bonds. So he feels pretty useless during this time, and he's taken as a joke. At the same time, he finds out about Hydra and how they have this secret weapon, which we've come to find out is the Tesseract. So he eventually joins the war against their wishes just to get this weapon out of Hydra's hand and trying to save the world. So as a standalone movie, it's great, but as a connection to the rest of the MCU, it's just as important, and there's so many factors that are put into it. First of all, the little things like Howard Stark, which is Tony Stark's father. You see him later on in Iron Man 2, an older version of him. You see him again in Civil War. He has a pretty big role, not as big as Tony Stark, but his is pretty prominent. Along with that, it's the Tesseract, which I mentioned before. You've seen that before at the end of Thor during the post-credits scenes, but we didn't really get much information on what it was. We didn't even know it was called the Tesseract. In this movie, you get more of an explanation. You get to see what its true power is. And later on in the next few movies, you get to find out that it's one of the Infinity Stones that Thanos is trying to obtain to put on his gauntlet. And as everyone knows, this is the last standalone movie in Phase 1 that leads into the first Avengers team-up movie. And my God, who can forget that amazing teaser that shows up at the end of the Captain America credits?
You think you're the only hero in the world? Gentlemen, you're up.
Felt like it was just yesterday. As for my connection from this movie to Endgame, I see 2 pretty good ones. One is that the Tesseract is in this movie, so that's a strong connection to Endgame with Thanos having one of the stones. With my time travel theory, I see Captain America maybe going back in time to retrieving the Tesseract, either to destroy or just keeping it out of Thanos' hands. The other thing is that Chris Evans did mention that this is his last movie, Endgame, in Infinity War, his contract was already up, but he wanted to do this movie too. And he said it wraps everything up really well. My indication is that we have to have an explanation to why we don't see Captain America in future movies. Either he sacrifices himself for the greater good in this movie, or maybe if the time travel theory is true, he goes back in time to the 40s and stays there in order to have that life he wanted with Peggy Carter. Just something that I thought of. I thought it would be a great way to end his story if that holds true, because we have to have some explanation to where he's going and just not have him present in the future movies. And that was my thoughts on Captain America, the First Avenger. Hope you enjoyed that. For my next video, I will be doing the Avengers, the one that came out in 2012. My favorite MCU movie so far. But I hope you enjoyed this one. It will be sad to not see Chris Evans in the future of the MCU, so let's enjoy Endgame while we can with him in it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Make sure to share with others that want to hear about my countdown to Endgame. You all have a great week, and I will see you all at the movies.